Good day, welcome to Dutchess Talk Radio. I'm John Marino, and we are made possible by Robeson Oil, the house that service built, by Tompkins Mahopac Bank, by Lipolis Electric. Don't be left in the dark. Get Lipolis by White Plains Hospital, and by also too Hightower Westchester, managing your wealth to a fiduciary standard, along with Michael Labriolo, landscape design and construction of Armonk. We are produced by Sharc Creative, and we are joined here on the Cup of Joe political show by the county executive here in Dutchess, Marc Molinaro, making a return appearance here on Dutchess Talk Radio. Marc Molinaro was the Republican candidate for governor in New York State back in 2018. Marc Molinaro, first of all, welcome back. And secondly, your reaction to the resignation of Governor Andrew Cuomo.
Yeah, let's be clear. I'm not going anywhere.
No, you're not.
However, the U-Haul trucks are at the governor's mansion today as we speak. So it seems that he's definitely moving forward with resignation. It is long overdue. But let's be clear. What the governor's attempting to do is to slide past any accountability. I mean, that has to be abundantly clear. By resigning, that is the right thing to do. It is past time that he did it. There are multiple scandals. This is likely the most scandal-riddled administration in the history of New York, with several ongoing investigations, criminal and otherwise, today. But that his resignation shouldn't mean that there isn't a day of reckoning. There are thousands of families who lost loved ones because of a decision he made during this pandemic that led to the loss of life. They decided to manipulate and to hide that information from the public. Decisions were made based on that bad information, that bad data. Used public resources to write a book about his success, in quotes, during the pandemic that netted him $5 million in profit. And that's just one of the ongoing scandals. So all of that needs to come to a conclusion. There needs to be prosecution of any crimes against victims, families, the women that worked with him that were abused, or anyone else. And there needs to be justice for those who were victimized.
The state legislature says they're not going to impeach the governor now. Your reaction to that, too? Should the governor have been impeached? And then again, is there a legality that prevents him from being impeached?
Yeah, so the Constitution, I'll be a geek for a moment with you. The Constitution of New York provides that they could, in fact, have proceeded with impeachment. There's a question as to whether or not the trial could have been held. But we've lived through this before at other levels of government. And in this case, you had ongoing criminal investigation, ongoing impeachment investigation, ongoing attorney general's investigation. It seemed absolutely appropriate for the assembly to move forward with impeachment, at the very least to make clear that this state isn't going to tolerate this kind of behavior. But they abdicated that responsibility, and that is wrong. And this is not about politics, and it's not about a guy who came in second and lost to Andrew Cuomo in 2018. This is, again, the most scandal-riddled administration in the history of New York, with ongoing criminal and civil investigations that deserve to be brought to conclusion. He should not be given the opportunity to simply walk away with his state taxpayer-funded pension, walk away with $5 million in profit during this pandemic, and walk away without being held accountable for the victimization of far too many New Yorkers.
The state legislature says they will continue the investigation after Governor Cuomo leaves office. What does that mean, really? Because can they really do anything to him at that point? Isn't this kind of above the legislature at that point and goes into the hands of district attorneys in case they want to prosecute?
Well, the short answer is you're right, correct. However, listen, they already said they weren't going to proceed with impeachment. That is the wrong decision, but it's the one they made. They should, however, complete the investigation and produce a document. The public deserves to know what the Judiciary Committee, and by the way, the Judiciary Committee is our representatives. They are our representatives. These state legislators know information, were given information. I, by the way, was asked to testify before their attorneys, along with, I'm sure, hundreds of others. All of that information deserves to be made public. So at the very least, the federal prosecutors that are investigating, the district attorneys that are investigating, that they have access to that data. And as importantly, you and I do, the average citizen, New Yorkers, should know what they know. And if in fact their conclusions were similar to the attorney general's, were laws broken, and keeping in mind the impeachment investigation extended beyond the sexual abuse that was going on in his administration.
Kathy Hochul will be the new governor. Your thoughts on Lieutenant Governor Hochul and what her administration might be like?
I'll offer two thoughts. One, she's competent, smart, capable. I look forward to working with her. I do. I believe it'll be an opportunity for New Yorkers to level set, right? As elected officials, we ought to collaborate. We've already seen that. I've spoken to Lieutenant Governor Hochul, soon to be Governor Hochul, more times in the last week. And it's been multiple than I've spoken to Andrew Cuomo in 20 months. And it's not about running against each other. We've lived through a pandemic. There needs to be that kind of collaboration between county leaders and state leaders. That's promising. But the decision she makes in the first few days, weeks, and months of her administration will be definitive. Will she absolutely clean house? Anyone associated with covering up the data and the decisions around the nursing home deaths? Anyone associated with pay-to-play politics? Anyone associated with covering up or involved in the sexual abuse and harassment charges? Those people need to be removed from public office. And if she does that, she'll send a very important and powerful message. Will we make broader reforms that are necessary? Albany is a cesspool of bad behavior. There are good people there. I've worked with them. But the leadership in Albany has embodied, in many cases, has emboldened, and has protected this cesspool of bad behavior. And will Democrats, and they are in charge, that's the way it is. The Democrats are in charge of the state legislature. Democrats have an overwhelming majority of elected positions in the congressional delegation. Will they establish new policy to clean house and to hold people accountable? And if they do, then Governor Hochul will start off with a very powerful and strong administration. If they don't, then this will have been theater, and that's not healthy for anybody. We need real reform in Albany.
What does Kathy Hochul need to do from a policy standpoint? First, second, third, first and foremost.
Well, she's going to have to jump into deciding and establishing school district policy. I do believe kids should be back at school. I believe we should minimize any mandate or any impact on school kids' lives. I certainly do support personal choice when it comes to vaccination and mask use, but she's going to have to make some choices. And getting our kids back to school should be number one. We need our kids educated. We don't need them impacted by politics or anything else. What we need them is educated. We need to have the creativity, the innovation, and the courage to get our kids educated. Number one. Number two is restore the economy. And by the way, that means confronting problems that New York had before COVID, and that is high taxation, high regulation. They've got to confront the fact that we continue to export jobs to other states and to be competitive again. So growing the economy in a way that gets New Yorkers back to work, absolutely critical. And third, public safety. Again, I know their positions, right? She supports some of the reforms. I suppose she supports all the reforms that came out of Albany, but cashless bail and some of these other reforms that were adopted have threatened public safety, have diminished the value of law enforcement, and have made it very difficult for those of us at the local level to provide for public safety. And this is critical. If we can't keep our neighbors, friends, and families safe, we can't get them off to work. We can't trust they'll be safe in school. So those things have to be confronted in a thoughtful and earnest and collaborative way. I just, she's one person. We've seen her view. She supports these reforms. I hope that she's willing to reconsider some of her positions so that we can get back to ensuring that we're providing for safety, education, and access to a quality job.
Will Marc Molinaro run for governor again?
No.
In 2022? No?
No, I've
already... Definitive no.
Yeah, I've made that perfectly clear. We've got great candidates. I support Lee Zeldin. I've said so. But there are a number of candidates that are out in the community. I hope New Yorkers will consider very seriously where we need to take the state. I do believe that I have a role to play, and I want to be clear about that. I won't make any announcements with you today. But after these last 20 months, it's clear to me that we just can't have elected officials who sort of sit on the sidelines and, they might point at a problem that, was created in Washington or point blame at Cuomo or Trump or whoever it is, while all these other issues, all these other policies have really made life more challenging for the people we represent. I have a role to play. I'm going to play it. I'm going to keep fighting for the people that I represent and hopefully be a part of saving America and saving New York.
Dutchess County Executive Marc Molinaro here on Dutchess Talk Radio. I'm John Marino. We are produced by Sharc Creative. Marc Molinaro, what's the status of COVID in the county now?
We are seeing an incline and an increase in cases. There's little question, and among those, we are seeing an increase in severity. So the numbers we see today are very similar to what we saw in April of this year. Hospitalizations are a little bit lower, but among those in those hospitalizations, there are greater severity. Now, what I will tell you is of the 700 cases that we're monitoring today and the 30 residents who are hospitalized, of those hospitalizations, about 86% are among those who are unvaccinated. We've not had a positive Delta variant test, but they don't test for the variants regularly. We just know that what's going on today, you can give it the name Delta, but there's clearly a variation of the COVID virus that is spread more easily and is more severe. And so we know the tools that people can use. We have weapons today we didn't have a year ago. We encourage people to use them. If you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. I hope that you choose to wash your hands and to be clean, to do those sort of basic steps. Most notably, the last two that I point to, get the answers to your questions, and I hope you choose to be vaccinated. I believe in that choice. I chose it for myself, but I recognize that people want to be assured. They have certain concerns. Those things should be confronted. You should reach out to your trusted source and hopefully choose to be vaccinated. The third, which is the easiest, most logical, and I don't have a lot of patience for those who ignore. If you're symptomatic, stay home. And that's important. We are seeing transmission among those who show symptoms and still go off to work, go to an event or activity. It's just not appropriate right now, even if you choose nothing else. And I hope you do choose some of those other things. But even if you choose nothing else, just monitoring your health and isolating yourself from others if you have symptoms is critically important, because you just don't know the vulnerability of someone else. I speak at this from personal experience. I lost my father to this virus, a healthy man. Nobody knows what he may have been dealing with that caused this virus to kill him in 2 weeks. And so I just ask people to be considerate of that. If you know that you have certain symptoms, get tested, stay inside, weather the storm, reach out to a medical professional if it gets severe, but try to slow the transmission. That's very helpful.
Are more vaccinations being gotten by Dutchess residents? More people getting vaccinated?
Yeah, I'd like our percentages to be a little higher. We're at about 72%, which is just about the average. It's certainly slightly above the average in the region, but we're at about 72%. We're seeing increase individuals increase in vaccination. And listen, I tell people this, and I think it's important. If there was a hurricane, and there might be one, if there was a hurricane and the trees are coming down and the roads are closed, and I announce a state of emergency and close all the roads, 70 to 75% of the public is going to listen to me. They're going to do exactly what I've asked, stay home. The other 20, 25, 30%, they're going to do what they want. That doesn't mean it's right or safe, but the reality is that there's only so much that government can do to get people to react. We're at a point now where we're encouraging you to make that choice, but you're going to have to confront those issues. You may feel it's not right for you at the moment. You may think that there's certain medical issues. You should ask the questions of the people you trust and conclude, we hope, to choose to be vaccinated, but conclude what's best for you. Some people are waiting for FDA final authorization. And by the way, I say readily, they may not know why, but they're waiting for that moment. And when that happens, they'll choose to. So we just continue to educate, encourage. I don't like shaming people. I want folks to come to the conclusion that makes sense for them. I think, and it was for me, and I believe for my neighbors, the best choice is ultimately to be vaccinated.
Sounds like we're going to need a third vaccine soon. Will that be difficult for the county to ramp up and get out right away?
No, I mean, yes and no. It does look like, in particular, the body of science suggests, certainly for those who have greater vulnerability, the third dose or a booster shot will be necessary. I'm going to bore you to tears with a little more information. There are those who say, well, why do I need a booster shot? See, this thing doesn't work. I remind folks that a booster shot is a term we use, but every year there's a different variant of the flu. And we try to match up the booster shot, your flu shot, that's a booster shot, annually to the variant of the flu. Sometimes we match it, sometimes we don't, and you choose annually to get that shot. And by doing that, people who get sick, people who get vaccinated, builds up this collective immunity. That's the world. That's the science. As little as I understand it, that's what it is. The booster shot will provide some additional benefit. It does look like the FDA is going to say anybody, certainly there'll be broad access to booster shots, and that they should be taken in particular to ward off a more powerful variant like Delta. So to your second question, yes, there's access. Right now, there's ease of access. Doctors' offices, pharmacies, clinics. You really don't have to work very hard to get a vaccine today. That will be the case again with the booster. In the case of Dutchess County, we're going to be focusing specifically, our health department, specifically on homebound individuals, because those will be the ones that have the greatest limitations to accessing, and will continue to do that. But there'll be broad access to the booster shots as you choose to take one. I do want to say this. Keep in mind the Johnson & Johnson dose, which is the single dose, still not enough body of science for them to suggest, or the FDA yet to approve a booster shot if they ultimately deem it necessary. We suspect that we'll know more in the next 2 months.
Rent eviction moratorium, a big national issue and a big issue in New York State. We're hearing that a lot of the money that came to the state that should go to renters, to landlords to help them out here, it's not happening. Very small percentage has gotten out. And apparently, according to the law, if this money is not distributed by the state by the end of September, that could go back to the feds. Do you see that being a problem?
I see it as a big problem. It's a massive failure of the state of New York. And by the way, even the federal government allowing the state of New York to do this. We're not the only ones who have been delayed, but we're the worst, by far the worst. 2-3% of the dollars being distributed, while other states are distributing significant, much more. And this affects real people, right? So this aid goes to landlords and to tenants, and it's real assistance. And it is the tool that we need to end the eviction moratorium. And we have to get the resources to tenants, the resources to landlords, and we have to then move forward with eliminating the eviction moratorium. And it just seems that the state can't get out of its own way. And so the county executives across the state, Republicans and Democrats, joined with Senator Schumer, Tom DiNapoli, the comptroller, and others, local legislators and others, to really call for an immediate fix. And it is a failure of the state OTDA to get these dollars on the ground. And it's so important. There are just too many people, landlords and tenants, we're struggling too hard right now, and it's critical that they fix this immediately.
We have a storm coming, it seems. Are we ready? Are we prepared?
Well, that's what we do best in local government, county governments. We prepare for the worst and pray for the best. We're prepared. We've been communicating with the local utilities, a series of public conference calls with municipalities. Our own emergency response department is monitoring the storm. Right now, it does look like this particular storm might stay a little bit to the east, the Hudson Valley, but still we're expecting a high amount of rain, some degree of winds. But you know as well as I do, when storms move quickly anyway. But when they get to about Long Island, sometimes they take a left, sometimes they take a right. And so we could end up with something more severe than we're thinking, but we're prepared for that. We do ask residents if you're in an emergency, obviously emergency situations, dial 911. If you see or there are areas of heavy flooding, try not to. Please don't drive through them. Don't walk through them. Be safe. And of course, if there's any additional steps, we'll be advising folks. But we're as prepared as we can be. But when you say there's a storm coming, I feel like we've been living through, many storms.
Storm every day at every level, federal, state, national, Afghanistan.
Yeah. Oh, I'll get that. But Australia just had like some infestation of rats or something, and so I'm who knows what comes next. Your question.
Who knows what comes next? Let's say in Afghanistan too. I think you want to give us some thoughts on that also too.
I do. I think first and foremost, nothing our men and women in armed forces did was wrong. The men and women who sacrificed in Afghanistan did their job, and they did it exceptionally well. But they're also the ambassadors, right? So they're on the streets in that country saying America is here to provide for your safety and ours as well. And what we've seen this last week is horrific. It is horrible. It is devastating to American security and the image and the message that America sends across the world. And it is a failure of the politicians. Whether or not we should have been there to begin with is an open debate. I am not for endless wars. I think we have to be very strategic with our decision with the use of military. This, however, is a failure of politicians. Maybe we should have been out sooner. Maybe, and certainly the evacuation should have been more orderly. Think about it for a moment. Shore up the airport, protect Americans, get Americans out, and then withdraw the troops. This was a total disaster, the evacuation, but not at the fault of men and women on the ground. And we are grateful for them. Also want to take this opportunity to say that the imagery, the visuals that you see have to be heartbreaking, even more so to men and women in service. And so we know that those who served in Afghanistan come home with both physical and mental scars. If you're out there watching, you're listening here today, and you feel overwhelmed, Dutchess County, as does many of our neighbors, continues to maintain our Vet to Vet initiative. Please reach out to us. In Dutchess, if you have a concern, you can call or text our helpline at 845-485-9700, 845-485-9700. Call or text. And you're seeing these images, and you want to connect with somebody who's dealing with it as well. We'll connect you with the right Vet to Vet support individual to be there right with you. You deserve nothing less than that from us. And the men and women who are in the breach today in Afghanistan deserve a hell of a lot more from their elected officials.
Our thoughts and prayers, of course, with everybody stuck in Afghanistan. We wish everybody a safe passage and to get out of there very quickly. Dutchess County Executive Marc Molinaro, we thank you again. Hope to talk to you soon here on Dutchess Talk Radio. All the best, and let's weather this next storm one way or another.
And we will together. Thank you.
Together, no doubt about that. Marc Molinaro here on Dutchess Talk Radio, produced by Sharc Creative, made possible by Robeson Oil, the house that service built by Tompkins Mayapack Bank, by Lipolis Electric. Don't be left in the dark. Get Lipolis by White Plains Hospital, by Michael Labriola, landscape design and construction of Armonk, and by Hightower Westchester, managing your wealth to a fiduciary standard. Catch all of our Dutchess Orange, Westchester, Rockland, Putnam, and Fairfield County Talk Radio programming on our YouTube channel, Sharc Creative YouTube.